Hi, I'm Morgan, and today I want to talk about misogyny in early 20th century literature. And this is something that I found deeply concerning because this is a book geared towards girls, geared towards young women, that was written by a female author. And it includes a horrible caricature of what the suffragettes were. And I'm very disturbed by this because this was written by a woman author named Josephine Chase, who went under the pseudonym Jessie Graham Flower, and it's called Grace Harlowe's Junior Year at High School. This is a book that I assume was most likely intended for young women, for teenage girls. I believe this is chapter 13, A Thanksgiving Frolic. There is a skit depicting suffragettes, and I want to read you it to show not only the caricature but the reaction of the other characters in the book to this. Jessica was then detailed to play, and under cover of her music, Tom, Reddy, David, and Hippie left the room, Tom returning presently to announce solemnly that an original one-act drama entitled The Suffragette, written by Mr. Wingate and presented by a notable cast, would be the next offering. After a moment's wait, Hippie, Reddy, and David appeared, and were greeted with shouts of laughter. Reddy minced along in a bonnet and skirt belonging to Mrs. Harlowe, while Hippie wore a long-sleeved gingham pinafore of Grace's, which lacked considerable of meeting in the back, and was kept on by means of a sash. After deliberately setting their stage in full view of the audience at one end of the room, the play began, with David as the meek, henpecked husband, Hippie as the neglected child, who wept and howled continuously, while Reddy played the unnatural wife and mother, who neglected her family and held women's suffrage meetings in the street. And I have a lot to say about this, but I want to continue. The dialogue was clever, and the action of the sketch so ridiculous that the audience laughed from the first line into the climax, especially when the suffragette was hustled off to jail by Tom Gray in the role of a policeman for disturbing the peace, while her husband and child executed a wild dance of joy as she was hauled off the scene, protesting vigorously. The applause was tremendous, and the cast were obliged to bow their thanks several times before it subsided. Songs, speeches, and recitations followed rapidly until everyone had contributed something in the way of a stunt. There's a little bit more, but it's more just wrapping up the chapter. And I want to give my commentary and opinions on this. First of all, I do believe that people of any gender should be able to play roles. I don't think there's anything wrong with a guy portraying a woman in theater. I don't think there's really anything wrong with that. But the fact that one of the characters is described as being a neglected child, there was this really awful stereotype that suffragettes are people who just want women to have the right to vote. And yeah, there were some suffragettes who did violent stuff, but not all suffragettes were like that. Many suffragettes just wanted things like women's right to vote, or other just basic improvements for quality of life for women especially. And there was this caricature or the stereotype that women who wanted the right to vote must automatically be neglectful of their children, or must be bossy to their husbands, must be abusive towards their husbands, or controlling towards their husbands, when it's no. A woman can think, hey, I want to have representation in the government and still be a caring person, can still have healthy relationships, and can still be a good mother. And this stereotype, the fact that there were female characters laughing at this, thinking that this was ridiculous. And that's what's disturbing to me, the fact that female characters, young women, were laughing at this, thinking that it was okay to laugh at this, thinking that this stereotype was okay. And I'm also, when I heard, especially when the suffragette was hustled off to jail by Tom Gray in the role of policeman, that's disturbing because in case people aren't aware, there were some really screwed up things that happened to suffragettes who were arrested, i.e. there was a major scandal, especially in the UK, about force feeding, where women went on hunger strikes in the jails, and then the people would try and forcibly open their mouths, sometimes breaking teeth, in order to try and feed them so they wouldn't die in jail. And it was just, it was very gruesome, the things that women went through just to have equal representation in our society. And I think the fact that the suffragettes were being made fun of here and that they were being disparaged to a female audience is one of the things that's like really disturbing to me, that this is a woman author who is speaking so lightly about such an issue. And I think it's very disturbing, and it reflects some very deeply unsettling things about the early 20th century. And I think it's an example, unfortunately, of how sometimes women don't always support other women. And I think that's a major issue still to this day. But yeah, I wanted to talk about this because I found this disturbing. I wanted to give my commentary on this because I just think it's very, very harmful that this was being written about, depicted in such a manner to a female audience. Like, these were the young, like the women reading this book would have grown up to be the future members of society, and they were being indoctrinated or propagandized with this anti-suffragette messaging. So yeah, I wanted to talk about this because I think it's a major issue. I hope that you have a great day. Bye!